From the truckload quoting page within TieTMS, you can create a new shipment to instantly display your historical lane average alongside all of the market-leading rating intelligence tools. In just a few clicks, you can adjust the quote, add your margin, select your quote response template, and email an official quote right off to the customer from the same page. Request a demo today at tie-software.com to find out how TieTMS can optimize your quoting process.
Check Call. Today we're covering all things PR and marketing. Don't forget to subscribe to the Check Call, the newsletter on FreightWaves.com if you haven't already. Today we are joined by Will Haraway, co-founder and chief content officer at Lead Coverage. This is an episode that's been a long time coming. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Will.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm actually a little nervous to be in your presence on this show that we have worked on a few times over the years.
I was going to say you shouldn't be nervous because for those who may not know, a lot of our guests are also clients of Lead Coverage because you guys bring the good heat in the best way.
We do our best, and we appreciate that, Mary. Right back at you.
All right. So before we get too far into the PR and marketing of things, let's get some background on you and kind of how you got started or how you started Lead Coverage.
Absolutely. So, I have always worked in supply chain is the main thing to start. Is that since I started as a young tyke, like my first gig was at a PR firm. And they needed somebody to sort of manage these two supply chain clients that they had, and they tabbed me. It was really that simple. And I was like 22 years old, and it just so happened that I understood it, and I was in Atlanta where I am now, where Lead Coverage is. And there's a couple of great, this is actually a big supply chain city, as you likely know. And so they were both local, and I just sort of took to it, and I just sort of understood it. And made contacts, honestly, even that far, not to date myself, but that long ago, that actually I still kind of use to this day, because you find out that in supply chain, everybody just kind of sticks around because it's just the way it is, So I did that, and fairly soon was hired by one of those clients, and it just sort of kept me in the mix until I ended up getting hired at Manhattan Associates, which, as you know, is a supply chain leader also here in Atlanta. And that was really, really helpful to me because that was back in the best of breed days of supply chain when, it was like Manhattan Associates versus Oracle versus Red Prairie and JDA before that became Blue Yonder. And back then, all of those companies had all of the supply chain pieces in one platform. So Manhattan Associates would have warehouse management, where it's still their core competency, but then they also had inventory optimization and supply chain planning and distributor order management and transportation management. Then when the cloud came, as we all remember, you were probably in college, maybe, probably not.
Well, no, it's the infamous the cloud. I think of the meme of it's just in the cloud.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to remember what movie. It's the cloud. It's just up there. It's the cloud. But anyway, so when it became possible to move your applications and platforms off premise and put them in the cloud and be able to access them in that way, then you got point solutions, right? It changed the whole industry, and all of a sudden you could have your own inventory optimization company and your own warehouse management company and your own transportation management company. But back in the day, I really got to understand all of those pieces in aggregate, which was really great. So that when my network started to mature, which does happen, and a lot of the people that I was with, even if I haven't matured, my network had, and the folks at Manhattan Associates had started to move on, and I've made connections all along the way. And they started to go to some of these companies or found them themselves, and then they would come to me and say, hey, what do I do with this Gartner relationship? Or what do I do to kick off this big customer release that I have? And the next thing I knew I had a business, and I had my own business back then. A few years into it, I met my partner, Kara Brown, who you've met and know well. and Kara and I decided to kind of join together our forces as far as like I was doing public relations and analyst relations, and Kara is an expert in lead generation and really just an expert in a lot of things, honestly. And she really, as you know, and so when we were able to, we quickly realized that our skills complemented each other in a very nice way, and literally at a supply chain. It was actually the Georgia Logistics Summit here in Atlanta, where we were at separate tables brainstorming names back and forth. And I was like, lead with coverage. And she was like, kill the with. And I was like, lead coverage. And she was like, already bought the URL, like, and I swear to this day, that is the way that we make decisions pretty much. It's like, that sounds great. Let's do it. Boom. Next decision. What do we got?
I like it. I also like that you found yourself in supply chain the way that most of us find ourselves in supply chain by pure accident, and the fact that they will hire you. So that's how I found myself in there. I needed a job. I didn't, dream of being an appointment scheduler for trucks. I did not dream of that growing up. I just needed a job after graduation. And I was like, I don't want to be in supply chain forever. And I left. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be in supply chain forever, because once you're in it, you can't leave.
Right, exactly. And inherently, it's logical. And I'm a logical person. And that's probably where it comes from. It's like, we're just getting this from here to there in the most efficient and quick, possible way. And so that's really what we always, all we have are supply chain clients. As you know, that's why we have so many people on your show, is that that's all we do. We've actually sort of mimicked that exact thing going back to the best of breed strategy. We want to have a company in each sort of space in the supply chain, from digital freight brokers to 3PLs to 4PLs to anything you could think of.
That kind of leads into my first question that I have for you. So there are some people that maybe own a freight brokerage, own a 3PL, maybe have some software, and they don't necessarily see a lot of value in marketing or PR. It's just kind of like an afterthought, other than like, oh, we're going to a conference, maybe we should get some pens or, some kind of swag like that. That's kind of sometimes the extent of it. But as we all know, it's much deeper than that. So what's kind of your take for those that think that marketing and PR aren't really key components of what makes a strong or a good freight brokerage or a 3PL?
Well, it's about how much you want to grow, honestly, because a lot of those companies, almost grow through networking and word of mouth, and through referrals, like we all do, right? But you really do have to extend your net. You have to find new opportunities and leads, and that's really what we do here. That's when people engage with us, and when we start to, when we go to, obviously I go to the FreightWaves conferences and really all the conferences, and that's where those conversations start. Is like, where are you finding your logos, and what's the sort of untrampled snow that we can help you find some new logos. And a lot of that is through, from a public relations perspective, it's mining your company for all the different things that you might not know are newsworthy, as far as your partnerships and your customers and the execs within your team and their particular expertise, which many of them, as we just talked about, have been in supply chain their entire careers. So they know everything you can possibly know about booking freight, and about route optimization, and about fuel optimization, and about where to put your truck when you're dropping off at the port the next morning at 6 a.m. Where do I go at 5 a.m. if I'm all those things, and like just those little pieces, once you dig into it, and then you can create content that does bring people into your audience, that widens your audience and widens the ability for you to sell to them, because sometimes your audience doesn't even know that you exist, unless you show them why you are the particular expert in your field. And the great thing about supply chain is there are so many niches. There are so many niches. I mean, from the ports to, again, just the specific regions of trucks to the way people are dealing with trucking in California because of the AB5 legislation. That's a completely different landscape than they deal with over here in Georgia, where they're building this whole new inland port thing. It's like, but nobody really knows that unless you come in and sort of raise your flag and say, hey, Mary, I want to come talk to you on check call about why the AB5 is a big problem for my trucking customers, or for my trucking group.
It's one of those where like you kind of have to make yourself known, and if you have the solution to something, you need someone that's going to grab that bullhorn and say, hey, we have a solution over here, maybe we should come talk about it
and make it actionable. Just it's not, the thing is just don't do PR for PR's sake. Make sure it's about something that's real and about something that people can sink their teeth into and contact you about. It's not rocket science, really. Again, it goes back to just being logical. Just be interesting.
So kind of what are some of those signs that if I'm a business and I'm pretty set in how I am, and I'm taking good care of the customers I have, but I want to grow, what are some of those signs that maybe I do need to start reaching out to a PR firm or a marketing agency or something, because my current efforts have done enough, but I'm ready to like level up and go big time?
There's a couple different things that happen. I would say the most common one is honestly investment, especially in the past 5 years. It's like when you get venture capital money, or you raise money, or your board, or whoever your parent company is invests money back in, or your key investors invest money back in. That's generally when they get in touch with a company like ours, because it's like, all right, well, what can we do to grow? Because it is about logos, and it is about leads, and it is about sales. That's the growth, right? So how can we supercharge that? And that's definitely one of the ways. Another way is when a company, especially in like the 3PL space, is a really good example. Like 3PLs can be, sort of homogenous, right? None of them are, but when you look at it from the outside, from a 50-foot level, they do. It's like, oh, you're a 3PL, got it, right? But really, they're all pretty different. And a lot of times there are companies that come in and want to focus on technology pieces and change the look and the feel of their company, and change the brand of their company so that they can go up market. And that is another way that we get a lot of clients that way. And we sort of, that's actually one of our favorite things to do, because that goes back to everything we started with, is focusing on like, okay, well, who are the technology leaders? There's always 2 or 3 within the company that are leading this charge. And if they can talk about it, like somebody you talked to a bunch, Eric Rimpel from Redwood Logistics is a really good example, right? The guy's a savant, and he's also a big music fan like I am. So it's always fun. You can, if you ever want to get him on track talking about like playing the piano and supply chain, it's a good track for him. But regardless, like, that's how you can communicate that to the marketplace, is through voices like Eric's. That's a really good example, but those are the 2 things. And then sometimes it's literally just like, it's your board, and your board says to you, we really need to start engaging with the analyst relations community. We get that a lot. Like, you'll get a board member that understands the value of being in that space and getting that third-party credibility that puts you in those RFPs, those really high-level RFPs. Because a lot of times that is where the decision-making comes from. And so you'll get that, like, hey, we're ready to start talking to Gartner, and we're ready to start talking to Nucleus Research and Forrester and Frost & Sullivan and on down the line. And but we don't know how to do it, frankly. And what's the strategy? And they come to us, and that's another one of our core competencies. We've worked with those guys for years. We feel like there's such great value with those guys. They are also experts. So to just get people talking and understand what helps each other, that's really what we're doing, to be honest with you, is just engaging people in conversations and making sure that they're productive.
I mean, I feel like talking to you guys and working with you guys to get some solutions and get, exposure in front of people is a lot more efficient than just the contact us side of someone's website, where you just email like press@whatever.com.
Of course, because you just don't know what you're going to get. You don't know who's answering that email. You don't know what you're in touch for necessarily, except for like, I think that I need to engage with an inventory optimization company, and this is who it is. But isn't it a lot nicer and better when you have read something about them in CNBC, and they're talking about the fact that, the ports are clogged, and that means that warehouses are clogged, and that means you're not getting your stuff by Christmas, and that, toy companies are throwing away, literally like burning toys. And
You get someone that already understands the problem. You get someone that like, oh, they're already up to speed, whereas the press person that's probably monitoring that inbox doesn't necessarily get that.
That, maybe they do, but more than likely that's, you really do need to be proactive. You need to be. No one is going to sell for you better than yourself. I mean, that's like something that your mom and dad would say to you, right? No one's more of an advocate than yourself, except for maybe mom and dad. But you know what I mean? It's like, and so if you can figure out, and I do think that that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is understanding what makes the company tick and what makes the company unique. Because a lot of times people will kind of sit back and say, well, we're just a freight broker. That's what we do. We broker freight, and we've done it for years, and we're really damn good at it. And it's like, yes, but what kind of freight are you booking? Are you doing chemicals? Are you port to door? Do you work specifically with freight forwarders overseas? Because everybody has a niche and a specialty. And once you can figure that out, then you can become the expert and the one that people come to, the one that you come to, the one that sources come to, which can then result in leads for you.
Exactly, because that's where, I mean, every brokerage has that one guy that's good at booking, or gal that's good at booking something. But if your entire company is like the industry's person for that, like that's pretty big flex in my opinion.
And right, when you get recognized for such, and then you continue to build on that, that's the key. You feel like you're in great hands.
So what are some of the advantages, and then I guess also some of the disadvantages that come with an outside PR firm or some of those outside marketing agencies? Because not all agencies are created equal. I know it's hard to believe. There are some that are not as great out there. So kind of what are some of those good things and some of those not good things that come with it?
I think when you're looking for an agency, the key is to find people that do understand your business, that do understand your niche and do understand the difference between, the 3PLs and 4PLs. And just as an example, but whatever it is, whatever your business is, that's even if you're a retailer, and you're looking for a firm, you really need a firm that focuses on that, in my opinion. That's definitely one of the advantages. An advantage is that they come in with a clear-eyed view, and everybody thinks that their product, especially in technology, everybody that I have ever worked with thinks that their product is the best product, and it is revolutionizing and innovating, and we all know that that's just not the case. So to have a third-party person come in and be able to say, like, this is really good at this, but maybe it's not so good at this. So let's focus on this right now while this improves, like things like that. I think that those are the valuable things. When it's not valuable, honestly, is when you look for a company to sort of be the magic bullet, or an agency to be the magic bullet, because you're only going to be able to get out of an agency what you put into it. That is the truth. Like, you do have to open up not your books necessarily, but your kimono. You know what I mean? You do have to say, like, here are some customers. Here are 3 or 4 guys within our company, and make them available. Those kinds of things. It seems inherent, but people can get closed off. People can get busy, and you don't want to have someone that feels like you're giving them another job necessarily. You definitely don't want to have your sort of key engagement person be the CEO of the company, because that is a really hard job. You know what I mean? And now you're giving him marketing and PR on top of it. It's like, it's definitely better when you have somebody in that space that can sort of liaise between and help and knows where everything is. That's really the key. Just sort of knows who you need that subject. That's this guy. Or, oh, this guy sits in on all the sales meetings, so he's going to know who's in the pipeline that's about to convert and could be a possible great new reference for us. I mean, those are the keys. I would say those are definitely the advantages, disadvantages of getting into it. But the fact that you can get a team that understands what you're doing, and you can go that through the RFP process, I think that's the most important thing, because then you start at like square 5 instead of square 1, And these things are expensive. We all know it, right? It's just, it is what it is. It's hours, it's time, it's people, it's, so if you can get going on day one and have people understand what you're doing and feel confident in that and be able to communicate that to your board that just gave you the agency to hire this agency, then there's a specific power in that that's really helpful.
So what's your one piece of advice to someone that maybe you haven't touched on before yet, but what is your one piece of advice for someone that is maybe just starting to explore hiring a firm or hiring some kind of outside marketing or PR agency? What's your one piece of advice to them?
You should, it sort of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like you need to look internally at what you're going to be able to do to make this successful. And that is some of the pieces that we touched on a second ago. Like, do you have somebody that knows where the bodies are buried, to use a vulgar term, you know what I mean? But that knows where everything is, right? You know what I mean? Do you have that liaison that can help? Maybe it's the person that's out doing the hiring, and that's great. I mean, it's looking for the firm. If that's the case, that's actually ideal, right? Because they already know that they know how to do all these things. We have tons of people that come to us in that way. That's definitely a major thing. The other is just understand, customers are so big. They really are. Understanding your customer base and your sales culture, because a lot of times the sales guys can really hold tight to their contacts, and that's understandable and great because they're looking to do upgrades and they're looking to upsell. But helping them understand maybe ahead of time just how important it is to have customer references that give you that validation for the things that you do based on their success. And again, just taking an inside look at, not to be weird, but like, look at your executive group or your product group or your whatever and be like, that guy's really funny. That guy's hilarious. I love talking to that guy. I bet he would be good on television. I bet he would be good at an interview. He's interesting. Like literally identifying those people in your mind. You don't even have to tell them. But when you're going through this process, to be able to say like, Steve is, a genius when it comes to, he's hilarious with customers. He's a great, as a product person, he helps them understand it. If he can help those guys understand it in the sales process, he's going to be able to help media people understand what your company does as well. So just looking internally, I think is very, very important before you step into something.
I think that brings up a pretty good point too. Like you have to make sure that you have the people there and that everyone's kind of on board with it, and not just go out and get an agency just for the sake of having an agency. Like make it a true partnership that you work together for.
You have to, as I said, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. You have to, it is a two-way street. Like if you can put good fuel in the car, good fuel in the truck or in the ocean liner or whatever, right? Then you're going to get something out of it for sure. No doubt about it. But you've got to have that wood to put on the fire for sure.
Okay. So we are running out of time, but there is a question that everyone that comes on the show has to answer. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
It's so, it's a big moment for me to answer this question with you, Mary. We've been through a lot together, over the past couple of years. I can say unequivocally that a hot dog is not a sandwich.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's its own thing. It actually has its own bun, and it is called a hot dog bun that a hot dog fits in. Now, if you want to put a lobster roll in that hot dog bun, mazel tov, go for it. Why not, right? But it is specifically, they make their own bun for it, and it's its own thing. A sandwich, come on, they're both beautiful things, but it's okay that they are not related. They are not
they
even
are allowed to be separate things, and they are allowed to both be equally delicious.
They are, and they're delicious, and I might have one for lunch. We'll see.
I mean, go for it. There's some gas stations around here that have pretty good hot dogs. I'm sure there's got to be one by you.
Pop it in. It's protein. It's really, it's maybe not the greatest for you, but it's not horrible if you don't put chili on it. You don't have to do it every day, but it's a good snack.
If anyone wants to find you, talk about your hot dog stances, maybe pick your brain on if they're ready to make the jump to an agency, where can they find you outside the show?
We're on all the things. We're on LinkedIn with lead coverage. We have our own website, leadcoverage.com. You're welcome to email me specifically at will@leadcoverage.com. we're an open book, and we would love to hear from you. We love supply chain, and we will always be here to support it for sure.
Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here first. Will's DMs are open for all of those hot dog opinions. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Too far?
No, I love it. Find Check Out the Podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to check out all the other incredible FreightWaves podcasts, such as Running on Ice and Point of Sale. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/checkcall. See you on the internet.